Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. So I thought I'd pop by and create another simple, excuse me, video. And this time I would use my circular gel press. I've got no plan in mind other than using some VersaFine Clairs. I've got no idea where it's going. But that's part of the fun, I think. So I'm starting with my 6-inch round gel press. So what I've done is I've cut a piece of card, Pink Frog smooth card, 6.5 inches square. Now, if you want to, you could place a piece of the 6.5 inch square underneath your gel press. And then when you come to line up your work, you can just line it up against the card that's on the base. So I've got another piece of 6.5 inch piece card, and then I've got a couple of spare pieces of card that are 4.5 by 6.5, just because that's what I've got spare. So what I'm going to do, let's just grab, I'm going to take my little fern stamp TE3. So let's take TE3. And it really, if things don't work, it doesn't matter. I'm just creating a background, so I'm not going to stress about it too much. So I've got a 4.5 by 6.5 inch piece of card on the right hand side to work on as like sort of my work off piece where I just brayer off things, etc. I've actually got two pieces. One piece to brayer off, so you can see I've got two pieces here. One piece to brayer off and one piece maybe to stamp off any excess ink. So I've placed the 6.5 inch piece of white card underneath the gel press. So firstly, what I'm going to do, let's open this one. There we go. I've got VersaFine Clair, Avocado and Spruce. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the avocado and I'm going to apply that directly onto my gel press. So let's just apply the colour just over my gel press, a couple of sort of layers of that ink just over the gel press. And what I'm going to do is just We'll put that straight afterwards when we finish faffing. I'm just going to lightly brayer that there and then go to my excess piece of card and lightly brayer there. Can you see how much ink is on there when you brayer off the ink? So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to ink my fern stamp with the VersaFine Clair Spruce. Don't know where I'm putting this now. I've got everything everywhere. I think I might want a smaller acrylic block just with working on the gel press, make it a bit easier for me. So I'm then going to take the spruce and I'm going to ink my fern, and then I'm going to add little bits. Now am I going to add it around the edge? Let me just think of this now. Yes, I am. So I'm just going to take the fern and just press lightly. I'm not squishing it on the gel press. I'm just pressing lightly. And it doesn't matter if you haven't got a perfect image. So with the ink that I've got left on the stamp, I'm just going to stamp down the side of this piece of card as my sort of extra piece of card. So I'm then going to stamp sort of 3rd generation just onto the gel press that will be super light, but that doesn't matter. We're creating a background. So we'll take the spruce again. There we go. Let's bring this in. And I just want to add some this way. Am I still in camera? Yes. Just adding some that way. Now, I'm not squishing the stamp. I'm just lightly pressing the image onto the gel press. And then, again, we'll just add some just in different places onto this piece of card, because then we've got a second background, which is part of the fun. You might end up with a background you don't like. Well, you don't have to use it. That's part of the fun. So I'm just sort of stamping second, third, whatever generation. So I've got 2 there. So then let's ink. We'll ink the whole thing again, mainly because I don't know what part I'm going to use. So when I don't know what part I'm going to use, I use the whole thing. That's just me all over. So let's just add a bit there, a little bit here. Little bit there. So you can see I'm just adding little bits to the background, and some is first generation, some is second generation. So I'm just sort of playing around. Then we'll bring in our extra piece and we'll just stamp off some of the fern. So just, you can see that I've got different generations of the fern on there. It's nice just to get some different generations. So then I'm going to take my piece of card. Now let's sort of get this lined up. Do you like how I don't have to rush because it's on my gel press and these inks don't dry? So I can now take the same piece of card and I can line it up with that base piece. There we go. And then can just press lightly with our card. So just giving that a nice press over. And with the VersaFine Clairs, it's not like you have to press really hard. You're just gentle, and you can feel when you lift it, you've got some resistance. So just so you can see, I like what I get, because obviously these are a new ink pad. They are oil based, they're permanent, so you're going to get a little bit sort of those white areas on your gel press, but that's what I like because it makes it look a little bit different. So it makes the stamps look different, it makes your background look different because it gives that different feel. Right, so then we just got, let's grab a piece of scrap paper. So we'll grab a piece of scrap paper. Let's see if there's any ink left on there, just so we can cut an aperture. So let's cut the aperture out of there. Now, if you get beading when you're using sort of oxide inks or paints, really what you need to do is place your gel press between 2 pieces of copier paper overnight, and that'll alleviate some of that. But obviously with the VersaFine Clairs, you will get that a little bit, but that's the whole point. Makes it look a little bit different. So I'm just seeing if I can get a circle just by pressing the rest of the ink. If I can't, I'll just... Yes, I can just about get a very faded image, but if you wanted to, you could actually use that as well as a very faded image. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut out the inner circle, and until you cut a little bit of it out, it gets easier the more you cut out. And because it's very pale, it does make it a little bit difficult to see. There we go. If I turn it towards the light, I can just about see. And obviously I could have just added more ink and then just stamped that onto the paper, but I'm being a bit precious and didn't want to waste any of that ink. But I don't know whether you can see that. You can see there's still sort of a second generation print there. It's terrible cutting out, but that doesn't matter. So now I can place, that is absolutely abysmal, but we'll make it do. There we go. I'll just have to move it down a bit wherever I'm using. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to grab my favourite background stamp of the moment, which is the Background Elements. So we'll just grab that one. I'm going to add a little bit of detail. So I can add, I probably don't need this mask for this bit. I'm going to add some tone on tone stamping. So with the avocado, I'm just going to take the avocado. I'm just going to add, let's just make, we don't even need that at the moment. Let's just make sure. Yes, lovely. Just so you can see, you've got some lovely tone on tone stamping there. So I can go straight over the background. So let's just, so just giving that a little sort of touch of text. You can add second generation and third generation if you wish, just to add a little bit of text. So I'm using the avocado. The avocado sort of got more of a vintage feel for me. It's lovely. Really does have a sort of vintage feel, which is lovely. I'm probably going to add some more. Oh, where there we go. I was thinking then, where's my stamps? So then I'm going to have stamps everywhere like I normally do. I'm then going to use my little wheelbarrow. And before I add anything, I like to just have a look. You can then sort of see if this is exactly what you want. That'll be lovely. So I'm going to use the wheelbarrow. And I'm going to, I think I'm going to stamp that in brown. Let's let's have a look what we've got. Before you actually use a colour, always test it first, just to make sure that that is the colour that you really want. So let's just test this. Let's grab a piece of scrap paper. Now, there's no point testing it on a piece of card that isn't similar to the card you're using. So I just want to check the Portobello colour. So let's just check what colour. And if you've got a swatch, obviously you can go straight to your swatch. Even if I've got a swatch, I still test it on the card I'm using. Unless obviously I've swatched it on this piece of card, then it's nice and easy. Let's have a look. So yeah, so it's all very sort of vintage, which is lovely. So I'm going to use the Portobello. So we'll ink our wheelbarrow once again. Just giving that a really good inking. And obviously make sure that your stamp is going to stay on your acrylic block before you literally go to your project, because there's nothing worse, is there, than going to your project and then your stamp drops on there. So just make sure you've got that enough stickiness on that stamp. If not, just give it a wipe on the back or a little wash. Let's just give that a little bit of time just to absorb onto there, mainly because it's got quite a lot of black area, so we just want to make sure. But look, if I stamped the fern direct onto the card, obviously to be solid, with it being on the gel press, I get these white areas, which I love. It gives it a little bit of a different feel, which I really like. I actually love that. So did I, just out of interest, have I got the wheelbarrow? Let's take, I've got the wheelbarrow cut out of a mask, so let's just place that there. And I just nearly put it upside down then. Just want to see if I want to have a couple. So let's have a couple of the wheelbarrows. We'll just give that an ink again with the Portobello ink. So probably being a little over, you know, sort of thingy with the ink, but I always do like to make sure I've got plenty on there. So I've got my mask on there. Let's have this one there. Now the one that you've stamped first is in the foreground and the one that you're stamping now will appear in the background. And that's why you've got that mask on there. So let's just, again, give that a little bit of time just to absorb onto the surface of the card. There we go. And if we lift this up now, that appears behind your other one. So just sort of building yourself a little scene. So let's just add this here. And then what I'm going to do, do you know, I knew if I put my little template back, I would want it. Where did I do with my little template? You know my oh, there it is. Oh, as if you can see what I'm doing. My little circular template. So, I'm going to add a little circular piece here. So let's grab a black pen, and actually a biro will be absolutely fine. So any biro is absolutely fine. Let's just make sure. There we go. So it's up to you what size circle you like to use. I'll let you know what size this is, which I should actually know off by heart, but guess what, I don't. Sure, it's 3 and something, and I do it every time, and I measure it and I go, oh yeah, 3 1/4. So it's 3 1/4 inches, but that doesn't really matter. So let's then take a piece of copy paper and draw the same circle on a piece of copy paper. And let's put this away because I'm really good at losing things. I can see this one now, so let's hope the cutting out is a little bit better than on my previous one, which was truly appalling because I couldn't see the faint line. There we go. Let's move that out of the way. We can then bring this in just here, like so. And then, just with everything everywhere, I'm going to take the little clematis stamp. So, this one here, I'm going to take this one. So that, turn it around, Tracy, so you can see it. Hold it up. That one there, we're going to use. And I love, as you know, I love a bit of faffing. And we're using copy paper because you can't use card or else it's not completely flat. You need it completely flat so that it works. So we need a piece of card again so I can do a little bit of testing. So what I want to do is, tell people the colour, Tracy. This is Lilac Bloom. So I'm just going to ink the florals and the bud with Lilac Bloom. And then I'm going to ink a little bit of the sort of leafy areas. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just testing it now. So after all that, I'm only testing it anyway, because I just want to see what the colours are like. Oh yes, so I'm just testing the colours there, can you see? But obviously I'm going to have to make sure I get the colour all over. So just testing those colours. I know what I'm going to do to make it far easier. What we'll do, let's just wipe over. We'll just go over completely with the Lilac Bloom, and we'll we'll just sort it out afterwards. So make sure, there we go. So I'm going to ink the whole stamp with Lilac Bloom. We don't do complicated, do we? No, we don't. So we're just inking over with that Lilac Bloom. Now make sure that you've got your mask in the right place. It's going to take me forever to decide where I'm going to put this, and then I'll move the mask at the same time. There we go. Move that. There. It's nice to do a bit of faffing. There we go. So I'm not doing any sort of masking off. There we go. And what we've got is our purple Lilac Bloom, which is very pale at the moment. And then we're going to place it again. Let's stamp again, just with the Lilac Bloom. So I'm just stamping off the camera, just with the Lilac Bloom. I then just paused because I was thinking, am I using Lilac Bloom? Anything's possible with me. So just adding touches of these purples. Just to give another little dimension. I'm going to add another one as well. So I'll just ink up again. With the same ink pad. Beautiful colour. Let me add that there. There we go. You can see the true colour on the copier paper. Let's move these out of the way. So what I'm going to do then, she says, I should have some purples on my desk. So I've got Parma Violet, excuse me, PC1008. Now I just want a darker colour. What colour are you? And Mulberry, PC995. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of the colour just to the clematis, just a little bit. Just add a little bit of the colour just to the clematis. You don't have to add the colour if you don't wish. You can just leave it with the VersaFine Clair. It's entirely up to you. So then I'll just blend the colour with the Parma Violet. So the Parma Violet is PC1088 and the Mulberry is PC995. So we're just giving that a little bit of that colour. You only need a little bit of a touch of that colour, just to blend it, because the flowers are only small, so you don't have to go too mad. You can just add as much sort of definition as you wish with the darker colour. But if you just want it to sort of be a little bit lighter, you can do that. So I'm just adding a little bit more detail with the mulberry. And of course I'm going to add touches of white to that. Luckily I've still got my pencils out. So where's my, I just want to check if I want another circle now. So I want another circle. Obviously I've got to think where's my, this is where my thinking cap comes on, because just cover that up, and then I just want it there. What, talk about being a fuss pot. So then I'm going to add another part of a circle. Have I done that yet? So I'm just adding sort of another, I can just about see that, another part of a circle. Let me just, there we go. So the same size circle, but just making sure that the spotlight finishes sort of here. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to grab some colours. So I want a green, a lighter one, and a little bit of a darker one. Which colour are you? That's perfect. So I'm using my Prismacolor pencils. Do you know, I've moved my sharpener into a new place and I didn't know where it was. So what I've got is chartreuse and grass green 909, chartreuse 989. What was that one? 909. So we're just going to sharpen my chartreuse. I like to work with a little bit of a sharper pencil. Right, so what I'm going to do then is just go with the darkest colour, which is the grass green, PC 909. Now this is going to take me a little bit longer because 1, I'm taking my time, 2, I need to do some blending, and 3, I'm not in a rush. So we're just going to add a little bit sort of the dark green, and let's add a little bit here. So I'm very lightly laying down a little bit of that colour, just very lightly, and I'm not going to do the whole circle because that's not what I want. It's just sort of a little bit of the circle at the base. So this is the dark colour. Doesn't look dark at the moment, I know. That's because I'm pressing on very lightly. So then I'm going to go with the chartreuse and just come in and blend that first colour. Let's just blend the first colour. So just come in and just blend a little bit of the first colour. So we're just adding a little bit of colour to these circles. Just bring that up a little bit more. So what I'm doing now is I'm still holding my hand on the pencil, my finger even, quite high up. So I'm not blending too soon. So let's just come in a little bit more. And we just press a little bit firmer than we did the first time. And what we do is we fill in sort of the open white areas on the card, and the colour starts to smooth out. So let's just, there we go. So it starts to smooth out. We then come back to the chartreuse. Now, obviously, most of the time, I will use 3 colours. So you get a light, a medium, and a dark. But I'm not doing that on this one. We can break the rules sometimes, can't we? So just come in and just blend the colours a little bit. So at the moment we still haven't got that blend. So we come in now, my fingers are a little bit further down on the pencil. And now I'm filling in more of the open areas of that card. But I'm still not coming in too firmly. So just coming in and just smoothing out that card, sorry, that colour a little bit more. But again, not pressing too hard. So just give that, there we go. Then come back to your chartreuse and press a little bit firmer, going in to your previous colour, which is your darker colour, coming into that just to blend into those colours. Let's just grab my white pencil. I love using the white just to blend the edges as well, but we'll do that after. So I'm going to come in just one final time. And I'm just going to smooth that out a little bit more. Just smooth that colour out a little bit more. can actually see it as you're colouring. You can see the white areas of the card filling in, and it becomes smoother. So we'll do this area now. Definitely becomes a lot smoother. Okay, so then we'll come to our chartreuse and just blend the chartreuse. So just take your time just to blend the colours together. And then what I like to do is just to blend those edges off, I just like to come in with a white Prismacolor, which is the PC938, and I just like to blend the edges. Which might not be visible on camera, but it just smooths everything out for me. And it's just a little touch, but it does smooth everything out. It just sort of smooths the whole project out a little bit. Have I got my Inktense? We also need to add a little bit of Inktense. Just around the circles. Even, oh no, that's the, I've actually missed a bit there. That's it. So just add our Inktense pencil, a little bit of, I always think a little bit of shading really helps sort of blend everything. Now this colour underneath will not move because that's the, spit it out, the VersaFine Clair. So that's not going anywhere. So just blend a little bit of those out. Just gives a little bit of much needed shading. Just clean that up. And then just a little tiny bit of shading just underneath the wheelbarrows. And then which dot? I just want which was my darkest colour on that? We've got some black grape here, PC996. And I'm just going to add a little bit of black grape just to the little clematises, which will come to life once we add our touches of white. It always makes a difference when you add the touches of white. I always think it does. It makes a massive difference. The only problem is you do need to let things rest. I find that if you try to use your gel pen too soon, when you've been scrubbing away, it just doesn't work. You need to let everything relax. And well, I don't know why I don't get a piece of black card. Let's use the reverse of my... There we go. So I'd just like to add some touches of white. I don't think this pen is very good, you know. It's sort of hit and miss. Look at it, it's just hit and miss. It drives me mad. Oh, I can't be doing with that. Have I got a new one? Let's see if a new one. There'll be more white marks on the back of this card. There we go, that's flowing a bit more. I think I've had the same pen, I don't know how long, to be honest. So let's just add these touches of white. Just sort of brings things to life a little bit. Now, I'm trying to add the white to the circles, and what all I've done is scrub with those pencils, and you really need to sort of let things rest, and it does work a lot better. This is my Posca pen. There we go. I could also use some white paint and just dot some white areas just on the florals. I like to just add a little touch of white. Just makes everything, just sort of comes to life. Let's put a little bit there. There we go. And I want to add a little bird. So let's grab our, where now? It's like, where's the stamps? I've got that many stamps. I pull all these out, and I should tidy up first. So I've got I've got TE12. I was going to read out a Prismacolor. I've got Shadowed Element TE12. And I want the little bird. Just need it on an A7 acrylic block. And I bet the only colour I haven't got is black. Of course it is. So I'm going to take my little bird. And we're just going to stand our little bird just on the wheelbarrow. So we've got one little bird, and then we'll stand another bird on the wheelbarrow. Doesn't take much pressure with the bird. I just hold it on there just for a few seconds so that I don't just miss. It's so easy to miss it if you're in a little bit of a rush. Let's place that back. And there's no point us adding the white areas yet. So where's my clematis? So I just want to check one thing. So let's bring in our clematis. Let's get the big flower. And what I want is one big flower there. So what do I do with that scrap card? Here it is. Of course, there's no room on there. Let's use the back. There, that's it being a bit skinflinty, that is. Let's grab another piece of card and we're going to stamp this clematis in the black, because then it'll be totally in the foreground. Doesn't the time go quick? There we go. So we stamp that with Nocturne ink. No idea which way I'm putting it yet. So let's just stamp onto our card. Now, when you're colouring with Prismacolor, the one thing you do need to make sure of is that your VersaFine Clair is dry, mainly because it will pick that up. So you do need to make sure that's dry. So I would recommend that you do give that a little bit of a blot, just so that you haven't got any excess ink on there. Right, let's move this all out of the way. And we had, nobody knows, Parma Violet. I want the really dark colour. We will have Black Grape, and let's have 3 colours on this. So we've got Lilac, PC956, Parma Violet is PC1008, and Black Grape, PC996. And what I'm going to do is just start with the darkest colour, just at the very edges, which when you first lay it down, you don't get the true sort of colour. So then let's use the second colour and just blend that in. And again, just a very light touch. Now, if you don't want to sort of press too hard and you don't want the colours too blended, you can have them nice and light. It's entirely up to you. I do like it when the colours look quite smooth though. And then we've got our lightest colour, which is the lilac. And to you at the moment, all those colours are going to look the same on camera until we sort of add our layers. So now we're going to come in a little bit darker. With that colour, and I get so engrossed that sometimes I forget that I need to be in camera. So just applying that colour a little bit more now. Again, as before, filling in those areas. Going to the middle colour, which is the Parma Violet, and going in to that first colour. And you can get away with 2 layers with this. I'll use our third colour, which really should be a little bit sharper personally, just to blend that out. And then I'll just go back in a little bit more, just to add a little bit more darkness. And then just to get that sort of ombre effect, I'll just go in with the white, drag that out, just drag the final bit of colour out to the edge, just to give me that little bit of ombre. And obviously we will add our white. So then I'm going to just cut around this, but this time just leaving a little white border, she says. The little white border will just make everything pop. I love this flower when it's cut out. And it's nice just to have a little play as well. Get rid of that bit of card. Just cut out our floral. And for this one, that touch of white border really does sort of help. And it will lift everything. There we go. And we obviously do need some white touches on there. Just a few little touches just to give a few highlights just to the floral. You don't need much. You just need a few little highlights, because it just lifts the floral a little bit. Well, actually, it lifts the floral beautifully. So then it's up to you where you want to add your floral. I want to add this to give it sort of a bit of dimension. I'm just pinching the petals a little bit, just to give a little bit of movement as well, because I like that. Now it's entirely up to you. I quite like mine here, just sort of coming off this circle here. It's entirely up to you. You could have it sort of coming off the other side if you want, but for me that detracts because it's here, so I like to have that there. So I'm going to add my little floral there, and I don't need it to have too much dimension because I've pinched the petals, so that gives it much needed movement and dimension as well. So do I want it that way? This is where I faff completely. I'm like, might just bring it in. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know about you, but I'm terrible. So we'll just add. Now you could add more of the florals if you wished. I'm just adhering in the centre of the floral. Just hold that and it will grab hold shortly. I can feel it grabbing hold already. And because I've only stuck it in the middle, I've already got dimension with the florals. We're just going to add a couple of touches to the bird because it's important that we include that bird. Let's add some splatters, which I'll probably add all over my pencils, but there you go. Now, if you're struggling with your Posca pens, give them a good shake. And then also, have I got the right Posca? I can tell I've not been at my desk for long. Don't press it too hard. You're just pumping the pen. I don't know whether I've got the right Posca pen. Oh, I have. Just give it a few really good splatters. And then we can decide on a sentiment. So what have we got on the clematis? Let's have a look. Timeless, that's perfect. That's that one. So we'll use the word timeless. Use my little A7 block. So let's add, preferably straight. I've got little strips of card here. They may as well not go to waste. That I can just stamp the little sentiment on. And we'll stamp that in black so that it's in the foreground. Again, doesn't need much pressure on there. And then let's cut that out. And it's just nice, it's not too, the sentiment is not too overpowering. But I'll just keep cutting away until I'm happy, because that's me all over. And put the timeless sentiment there. Just add this. I will add a little bit of shading underneath. You can add your faux black mat if you wish, you know, with your Posca pen. It's entirely up to you. Now, all as this needs now is, where's my little text stamp? Oh, I think that's the one I did actually put away. So you know the text that we stamped in the background? Let's just grab that text stamp again. Oh dear, it's out somewhere. There it is. So we grab the same text stamp, but let's use a little bit of Portobello. A little bit of Portobello ink. And I'll explain why I'm adding a little bit of Portobello ink. And the reason being, because we've got this wheelbarrow in the portobello, I'm just bringing some of that colour of that ink just into the background a little bit, just to make it more cohesive. We just want to add a little bit of shading underneath there. Nobody knows where that water brush is because everything is everywhere. Just blend that out just to give that much needed shading underneath, just so that you can see that. And then I've got all this to tidy up. We're going to, so this was 6.5 inches square. We're going to add this to a 6 3/4 inch square piece of black card. So if we add that to the square black card, and nothing is, you don't, if you know, nothing is two-dimensional, you could easily keep the flower quite flat. There we go. Again, I'm just going to lift that up just so I can see. There we go. And then we're going to add that to a spit it out. So it was 6.5, 6 3/4, and a 7-inch square card blank. Do you like how I have to remind myself? So a 7-inch square card blank. Make sure we haven't got a card that's going to be upside down. We don't want that, do we? Done it plenty of times, but we'll try not to this time. So just add and then let's just make this a little bit richer and deeper. Just a little bit darker. And we'll just try, just blend that a little bit, just so it's a little bit darker. Just blend that out. There we go, and just blend that out. There we go. And if we just lift this up, you can then see your card finished. So I hope you enjoyed the process and the step-by-steps, and that you'll give that a little go. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.